Orion Pax. Long before the burden of leadership was forced upon him, Orion Pax was a great thinker, an intellectual revolutionary. He spent his life plugged into a console, sorting, parsing, and filing historical data. As the world outside grew darker and more bleak, he saw hope for the future in his world's past. He saw, when no one else would, that Cybertron could once again be free, and he has clung to that dream, even through the dark times since.
Welcome back to eBEFOREi Video Reviews. What you're looking at here is a Pre-Matrix Optimus Prime. That's right, Pre-Matrix. It's Orion Pax. Whole long story here, you're probably already familiar with it, but if you're not, what you want to consider picking up is Transformers Generations Deluxe Class Orion Pax, part of Transformers 30th Anniversary series of figures by IDW, the publisher of these great Transformers comics. So if you had any question whatsoever about where this guy came from and what his origins are, well, you'd find out by purchasing this figure because he actually comes with the comic. So very cool. But yes, spoiler, I guess I should say, Orion Pax becomes Optimus Prime. And so this is a very early look at what ultimately becomes the leader of the Autobots. Anyway, that all being said, let's take a quick look at the box. So it says comic book included, and we just covered that. Figure itself looks good in package. You got maybe a Photoshop picture of what he looks like in vehicle mode. The 30th anniversary symbol on the side of the box. You see that he's part of the second series. He's figure number 2, although oddly enough, this must be a mistake. Because on the side of the box, they should have a picture of Orion Pax, but what they have is Megatron. So I think what we're looking at here, kids, is a box error. Huh. I wonder if they're all like that. Anyway, let's move on. On the back of the box, you have the bio that we just read, the figure in both modes, his truck mode, in case you're confused and thought that was his refrigerator mode, and his ion blasters included. So it's not sold separately, and that's good because no one would pay for that separately. Let's take a quick look at his technical specs. Now, again, this is Pre-Matrix Optimus Prime, but boy was this guy a weenie. Anyway, his strength was a measly 3. Even I could beat him in arm wrestling. His intelligence was a 9. His speed was a 4. He transformed into a turtle. His endurance was a 4. He got tired really quickly. His rank was a 2 because he was sweeping the floors. He was very brave. No one was braver at sweeping floors than Orion Pax. It'll get you somewhere, kids. His fire blast is a 1? Okay, so if Orion Pax came to you with a weapon pointed to your face, just laugh. His skill is a 9, and that's his technical specs. I realize this is all fiction, and I'm holding a toy, but yeah, I would have liked to have seen these a bit higher for the guy that became leader of the Autobots. That's just me. On the bottom, they'd like you to also purchase Bumblebee and Megatron. They want you to purchase Megatron so badly that they snuck in a picture. That was my box review of Orion Pax. Let's get him opened up. We'll look at the figure. We'll transform him into both modes. Take a look at the comic book and figure out if this guy's worth your time and money. Here we have Orion Pax, and he's unboxed and in his robot mode as he was packaged. First impressions of this figure. When you first get him in your hands, the first thing you think is, my goodness, this guy is small. I mean, he kind of almost seems like, I don't know, like a Legion class hubcap in size. I mean, he's really alarmingly small when you hold him in your hand. You can see, doing a size comparison with Bumblebee from the same wave, that Bumblebee actually sort of towers over Orion Pax. Now, I get the fact that this is Optimus Prime before the Matrix was installed inside of him, before he grew into the big Autobot leader that we know today. But I'm just not sure that he's scaled quite right with the rest of the collection. I mean, to me, Orion Pax, at the very least, should be equal in size to Bumblebee, but smaller. And I don't mean a little bit smaller. I mean, look at the shoulders here. Bumblebee's got these broad shoulders, and, well, Orion Pax, well, he doesn't. I mean, his, by comparison, are very kind of thin. You can see he's shorter in height. His head is much smaller. Look at where the waist lines come. I mean, Bumblebee's waist is up here, and Orion Pax is, right there. And, yeah, I mean, you can see overall, Bumblebee is a much larger figure, both in robot mode and in vehicle mode, than Orion Pax. Size alone does not necessarily make a figure bad, though. So the question really remains, is Orion Pax worth the pickup? Is it worth the money to spend on this figure because he's the same price as Bumblebee? Is he a good figure? Let's take a closer look. So the head sculpt here is really, really nice. Again, his head is tiny, but the sculpt itself is really brilliantly done. The cool thing is, when you cover the mouth just right, I mean, all you see there is Optimus Prime. So that alone is very, very cool. Now, aside from that, inside the chest, very, very neat, because this is a transparent just piece of regular old plastic windshield here. And you can see the robot bits underneath, and the Autobot symbol is painted on underneath that as well. You also have lots of Optimus Prime cues just about everywhere between the colors, the head sculpt, just the decoration inside. You've got the yellow bits here in his hips, and the yellow arrow there on his forearm, the blue fists. I mean, this guy screams future Optimus Prime, but as is, makes a perfectly fine Orion Pax. Other details in his robot mode, he's got some really cool yellow paint up here. Yellow paint, as I mentioned there, he's got, and these bits all really carry over from his vehicle mode, but very nice silver paint here, and we'll get into that more in robot mode. The point being is that these new generations figures, part of Transformers 30th anniversary, really, just especially for a Hasbro release, are really, really nice with lots of paint applications. Now, I like the detail on the figure. Look at the inside of his legs, especially right here. You can see that he's got like wires and bits of all these things that would be really a part of the robot. In truck mode, this isn't even visible because the legs stick together in truck mode. So as is, they didn't have to put that much detail, and the fact that they did is really a nice touch. You can see underneath the feet, you've also got these little bits that almost look like exhaust pipes or jets, and that's kind of cool. Again, you can see more detail in the plastic, what look like little pistons and things and wires underneath. So very, very nice attention to detail. On the back, you don't really have a lot of kibble. You've got these wheels that sit back here, which are fine, and they are part of the truck wheels, so they're not just sitting there for decoration. Got a little bit of hollowness up in here, not really that big of a deal. Now, one of the glaring things is this bit behind his head. There's nothing you can do with this. You can't bend it back, it'll snap off. I mean, you can see it's just a giant piece that sticks up. That might bother some people, but really, in hand, I don't even really notice it that much. So not a big deal for me. Maybe on camera it looks glaringly terrible, but in person it's not too bad. One of the issues I have in robot mode is the fact that this piece right here, that shoulder bit, connects inside right there, and it comes loose real easy. So maybe that's just my figure, but I can't seem to get that to stay in very tight. So, as is, I can deal with it, but just note that if you try to move the arms around, you're more than likely that's going to come out. Now, he comes with two weapons. He comes with his axe, which very, very cool, transparent red plastic, which is awesome. And he also comes with his weapon, and that's cool as well. And so the weapon, very reminiscent of perhaps a G1 Prime rifle, so that looks great. And the axe looks good too, as I would expect. In fact, this would probably look good with a lot of figures, but very, very neat. Now, one odd design choice is he was designed with light piping in mind. So he's got, a clear piece of translucent plastic, which tells me that he should have this kind of clear glowing eyes, but yet they painted them blue. Now, I like the blue better, no big deal, but you wonder why they didn't just put a regular old piece of, dark plastic back here, instead of the teaser for light piping. Articulation on Orion Pax. His head is on a ball joint, so it can look up and down and all around. His arm right there is on a swivel. He's got a ball joint right there. You've got movement in the forearm. Elbows are on a ratchet. The fist also rotates, so lots of hand and arm, shoulder articulation. The waist swivels due to transformation, but always nice to have waist swivel. Legs are on a ball joint. You've got a knee hinge. You've got an ankle hinge. And then the foot itself is on a ball joint. So lots of posing can be done with Mr. Pax. Now, to get him transformed, one thing that you should know is the directions don't tell you how maddening this chest will be the first time you transform it. And I mean, if you're trying this for the first time without watching my video, you've probably already thrown this toy 15 times. I'm just telling you, you probably threw this so hard up against the wall it exploded into a puff of powder, in which case you got to go buy another one. But once you get this transformed even one time, it becomes much easier after that because you loosen up the joint. You're going to feel like you're going to break it. Trust me, you're going to feel like it's going to break. It's probably not going to break. I say probably, so don't sue me if it does. Anyway, to get him transformed, you're going to take the top of his head and you're just going to push it down like that, and there you go. All right, after you've got that down, you can basically just kind of straighten out his elbows like that, rotate these forward, bring the arms up. You can go ahead and disconnect them like that. Now, here comes the chest. So what you want to do is you want to kind of put your thumb right here and grab him underneath the head, and you want to kind of push down with your thumb while you're pushing up with the backside underneath the head, and do that until you feel like you're going to break it, and it'll pop up like that. The directions make it sound simple, like, oh, just put it up and it's done. No, this will frustrate the heck out of you, but that's how you do it. Push down on your thumb, push up under the head, and that way it will pop. You see, it's on a double joint. You've got a joint right there and one above, so it's like a three-way hinge. All right, and the way to do it, again, is to just get in there and push down and up, and then you kind of bring the whole thing flat so that it's up and down, looking like that. And that's when you know you've done it right. You want to go ahead and rotate the waist. So just flip those legs around like that. At this point, you can take the wheels and you can pull them around. You want to bring the arms up so that they lock in. And these are on kind of these odd dual hinges as well. And you just want to get it so that it's flush in there like that. And take the hands, if you haven't already done it, push them inside, rinse and repeat on the other side. Do the same thing with the arm. You want to lift it up. You want to get it in place just like that. You want to make these straight so that the pegs right there are facing down, and you'll see why here in just a moment. Now for the feet, you want to come down and you want to rotate both sides of the feet, turn it around, and push these up against the body like that, or up against the legs. You want to lift these out just like that. You can make them flat. So pull them out, make them flat, and these pieces are going to come forward, and you'll see what that does here in a moment. While you have that down, you can take these kneecaps and just push them down so they're flat up against the front section of what become the hood of the vehicle. You can take the feet at this point. You've got peg, hole, push these things together just like that. Now this whole chest is on this joint right here, and you want to push that back so that it basically just sits back here on top of the legs. Now what you are radically missing is the front of the vehicle, and that's where this whole leg panel comes forward and forms the front of the classic truck. You want to go ahead and squeeze these together, and you should get that with no problem. With the arms still flat like that, you want to go ahead and accordion them down just like that in kind of a slant. And what will happen is that peg is going to fit right back here into the legs. From there, you want to just make sure that this windshield is tucked in as well as it should be. Just give it a good push, squeeze everything together, and at that point, and here we have Orion Pax in his vehicle mode. Vehicle mode looks good. Let's take a close look. There's a lot to like here in vehicle mode. I mean, it's very much a kind of blend of a futuristic vehicle to some older stylings as well, kind of like an old pickup. I like how these bits on his arms right here become almost like a jet from that one angle anyway. I've got the weapons plugged in on his sides. You can point these up. You've got almost like a cannon on the other side of the axe. But overall, I think the vehicle looks real good. Paint applications on this, there's a bit of a mismatch of paint. You've got the shiny red right here, which is paint. Very nice detail on the lights. And again, on the grill bit right there, they've got silver paint right here, silver paint that wraps around. The rims are painted silver. You've got silver paint detail right here on the side. On the top, you can see how the chest looks in his truck mode. On the top with this black piece, you can almost imagine there being an Autobot rub symbol there. So that's kind of neat. Now on the back, we don't really have much detail back here, but overall, I like the way this looks a lot. Now underneath, just like Bumblebee from this wave, it's as if the designers went out of their way to intentionally hide the heads. So you've got some hollowness up in here, but I'd rather see it hollow than see a head turn backwards or, for goodness sakes, even looking at you when he's flipped up like this. So you can tell he's got some kibble. You can tell these are legs and feet, but there's no glaring arms because the arms are on top, and the legs are actually much thicker than you would think because this whole front portion right here that wraps all the way up are part of the legs. So very, very interesting transformation. Not boring at all. And overall, looks quite nice. Now, he rolls pretty decent. Now, sometimes one of these wheels has a tendency to get, pushed a bit too far. So just make sure that that's shaped up the right way, and you'll be fine as far as rolling them is concerned. Now, here's the magazine that it comes with, and we're not going to go through the detail inside the magazine for copyright reasons. And, well, quite frankly, if you like Transformers and you like comics, you should really just pick this up and give it a read if you haven't read this one already. But there's a lot of great stuff in here that kind of give you a bit of the origin of Orion Pax. Big fan of the artwork in here. So final thoughts on the figure. With Bumblebee, who I previously reviewed from this wave, I thought he's been really not given quite enough credit and turned out to be a really nice figure. Orion Pax, I think, is perhaps a better figure in terms of his transformation, the way he looks in robot mode. The only knock against him I have would be his size. I think he should be, despite what the story says, I think he should be a little bit bigger than what he is in his robot mode. But that being said, overall, if my only complaint is the size of the figure, his transformation is fantastic, his robot mode looks great, his vehicle mode looks great, the weapons are great. Overall, if you see this guy and you're a fan of Optimus Prime, and really the origin of Optimus Prime, then go hunt out and pick out Orion Pax. You will not be disappointed. Anyway, thank you all for watching eBEFOREi video reviews. Your support means everything. And really the best thing I can say is, tell your friends about me. And you'll be cool. I'll just go with it. If you like my reviews and you want to see a whole bunch more that I've done quite a bit now, you can check them out. I'm at youtube.com/eBEFOREiNet. If you're on Facebook and feel like chatting with me, and I get a lot of good feedback on Facebook, you can find me at facebook.com/eBEFOREi. And then there's Twitter. Of course I'm on Twitter. I'm at E_before_I. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you back here again real soon.